Want a taste of a familiar, comforting classic? Relive the days of PBJs with M&M's peanut butter and jelly. It's the milk chocolate flavor you love, with a creamy peanut butter and strawberry jelly flavored center, all wrapped in that iconic M&M's candy shell. Sounds like a big warm hug and a bite-sized treat to me. Experience a delicious nostalgia for yourself. Grab a pack of M&M's peanut butter and jelly at your nearest retailer. M&M's, for all fun kind. Hello all, welcome to SN Off the Shelf. Chloe Riley here, Executive Editor of Supermarket News, and I'm joined by SN Senior Editor Bill Wilson. Bill, how is it going?
Doing well, Chloe. How's it going with you?
It's good. I think you and I both live here in Illinois where it's cold, so it's cold. Campers, it's cold here.
Yep, it's winter time. It's February. We're down the final stretch here, so.
But you know where it wasn't just winter was in sunny Florida at the recent FMI Midwinter show, which is we're doing a recap of some of the highlights that took place there today. So we were just there January 30th to February 1st in sunny Marco Island, Florida. Very beautiful, very warm, very unlike here. This was the group's biggest show ever, according to FMI. I think I felt that, Bill. I don't know if you felt that too, but felt robust and bustling, lots of conversations happening.
Yeah, there was a lot of action, a lot of networking going on, just a lot of information being spread, and we'll get to it later. But, when it comes to technology and AI, that is front and center on these grocers' minds right now as far as how they can best use it and in what way.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like one of my biggest takeaways, and you and I talked about this, was this idea of, grocers really having this opportunity to capture sort of a bigger share of occasion spend. So like instead of this idea of, pitching sort of things to consumers as, meat and deli and seafood, that's the way we think about it in grocery. But really we've seen, there was some great Circana data presented at the keynote talking about, that grocers really excel at holidays or weekends, when there's that occasion like the Super Bowl or Christmas or Valentine's Day. And so if grocers can sort of shift that mentality and find more ways to sell shoppers on occasions, they can really capture more of that dollar share. But what do you think, Bill? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I was really interested. Rick Keys was one of the keynote speakers, president and CEO of Meijer, and he talked about a situation and occasion, creating an occasion, which is the Super Bowl. And they kind of had this dead space on the floor where it's like, they use it for landscaping and lawns for springtime. And they also use it for like Christmas and other holidays. And right now it's, it was dead. So they created this floor space. And I was just in the Meijers last night, and it's a huge Super Bowl prep kind of space where anything that has to do with Super Bowl parties, they got it in this one section. So, that is an example of, creating that occasion, which I thought, was a great example and a live living example that, you can see today. So
totally. So I feel like the challenge is like finding those, how do you create the occasions when you don't have the big event, or maybe it's thinking about smaller events that aren't necessarily as big as the Super Bowl or Valentine's Day that you can create excitement around for people. We've got some stats here saying, in the last 3 years, traditional groceries seen a drop in dollar share across all trip types. Quick trips, pantry stocking, fill-in, special purpose. So I know the Circana data was saying, well, retail F&B sales volume is growing for the first time in 3 years. Grocers aren't really getting sort of the piece of that pie that they ought to be. So that's something to think more about. Let's see. Bill, I know you really got to dive into some of the sessions on tech and generative AI. What were you seeing and hearing? What were some of the important takeaways?
So probably the most important takeaway that I saw during this event was data, and using that data that you generate that can make AI more productive tool for you. And, grocers right now are looking at tons and tons and tons of data, and it's like, okay, where do you store all the data? And how do you clean up that data? Because, AI, you got to have clean, accurate data for AI to be, effective. You can't just throw any kind of data at it. So, the concern was like, the message that was clear that was sent was you have to have clean, accurate data if you want AI to work for you. And then the discussion flowed into, okay, well, who is going to handle this data and who is going to work with this data to allow AI to be so successful? And, a lot of people were even concerned about their jobs. Like, is this going to take my job away? And that's not necessarily the case, because, you still need with that data, you still need the talent to know how to use that data and to feed that data. And I think talent is just all the more important now. It's not like it's not like it's being taken away. It's even more important to have the right people in place that can use this data and feed AI and generate the results that they want to generate.
Yeah, so you need those managers. Those managers of data are going to be key. What about you? Sat in an interesting session, I think, on that RFID tech, radio frequency identification. Can you talk a little bit about? I think there was some cool thing with bakery in that, right?
Yeah. So RFID, it's been around for a little while now, and grocers have started using it, and they say it's great with bakery. You can scan your bakery area, and it can come up with all the information you need because the barcodes are there, the labels are there. You can really be more precise when it comes to rotating product. Product is coming up and it's becoming expired. RFID technology can really sum that up in a matter of seconds, like what exactly is expiring, what needs to be pushed out, what needs to be brought in. So it works great for bakery, but I guess they're trying to expand that out and trying to be able to apply RFID with the rest of the store. And I guess there are some blockades, there are some barriers. With bakery, everything's labeled in a clear plastic container for the most part, easy for those, radio frequencies can to measure and to get through. But when you're dealing with different types of packaging, and you're dealing with physical barriers in the store, that's where they're having some issues. And that's what they're trying to come up with next steps as far as the technology concerned. So they can apply RFID to the entire store, and it can create, entire instant feedback on your product, cool. In real time. So
cool. That's great. So cool opportunity in bakery there for sure. I know we also definitely heard some messaging kind of throughout FMI about, this idea that collaboration is really key for retailers and CPG, which, to me, I was sort of taking it as a, obviously makes sense. They're partners. But I think, there is a bit of, we've seen such growth, an explosion of growth in private label over the last couple of years, even just the last year alone, that I think that's, I was kind of interpreting that as, CPG wanting to be like, hey, we're here. And also don't forget about us and, don't steal all of our business. So kind of an emphasis on, strengthening those partnerships and making sure that, you have a good balance of the CPG in addition to the private label. But Bill, what were some of your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's funny because you look at private label and, the CPGs, you wonder how they see private label. Like, is this a threat here? We see tremendous growth with private label. Our store's going to come at us and use it against us. You see all this stuff, but when it comes down to it, grocers want to work with these CPG brands. They want to work with these CPG companies, and then the best example I can think of is retail media. They can, they really need each other for retail media to be successful. It takes the role of the CPGs and the role of the grocer to really allow it to take off and have meaning behind it. So, I always find it kind of funny because you look at private label and it's just completely taken off with inflation and everyone's turning to it. And the CPGs are like, well, wait, don't forget about us. And that's the last thing on grocers' mind. They're never going to forget about CPGs. And I think something like retail media has really brought the two together even stronger. I mean, if you ask me, just my opinion, that they need to work together in order to get this thing through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we all know, like, Pepsi's never going away. Oreos are never going away. Doritos are never going away. Those brands are so strong. that, we will always see them on some level at retail. So I think, one other kind of final takeaway. I like that idea in the keynote. I think it was also the Meijer CEO who was talking about this idea that they had kind of done a deep dive on Gen Z's, kind of their digital habits. And I think that they had this assumption that, Gen Z, they're so digital. That's how all of their behaviors work. They're very digitally oriented. But they said they were surprised to see that there was really kind of this like nostalgic, desire for more analog opportunities, more in person, more experiential. The Gen Z really looks back and has this sense that they missed out on getting that, that more experiential component, as more of a part of their daily lives. So, are you seeing that too, Bill? I feel like you have maybe a couple kids in that age range. Anything about their behaviors, digital or analog, resonating with that?
Yeah, it's funny that, we're talking about the COVID generation, and I really think COVID really had a negative impact on our kids. I had three of them. I have three of them. They lived through COVID. They're in high school and middle school and some grade school during COVID. And they got taken away from that social element. Everything was put indoors. Everything was done remotely. And that was a very critical developing part of their lives taken away and kind of put in this static kind of a box, with the masks and everything. And I really do think that COVID, now that we're thankfully beyond it and past it, I think these kids are like, we missed, this was a big part of our lives for social contact and social influencing and being out there, and we missed it. So I really do think that they're trying to get it now. They're like, well, we missed all that part of our lives, when we're teenagers, early teenagers, and they want to experience it now because, they hear stories from their parents, Gen Xers, about how it used to be. And I don't know if this has anything to do with, the topic here, but they love our products. Like, they love vintage. They love retro.
Sure.
There's stuff that was actually like New Balance shoes. New Balance shoes when I was a teenager was for nerds, but they're the rage now. It's like, and they're going back to our products, and I don't know what it is. We raised our kids on 70s and 80s music. Every time we're in the car, we play 70s and 80s music. I don't know if that has touched them in a way, like where they're fond of our generation because they connected with music. I don't know, but I just find it amazing that they're going back and they're using the products that we basically rejected as kids, as teenagers, and now they say it's cool. But I really do think, going back to my point here, that couple years of COVID had a mammoth, I'm waiting for all the studies to come out on the impact it had on our youth because, they really got kind of put in this bubble and, now they want to experience the world and have literally a touch point. So.
Yeah, no, something to think about. I think Meijer was talking about, even just like that generation wanting to hang out in the grocery store and seeing the actual physical store itself as a place they can go hang out after school. And so, what opportunities might be there to speak to that population, just something to think about.
And that goes back to Generation X again, because we used to always hang out at like the 7-Eleven. That's where we hung out. We'd ride our bikes to 7-Eleven. Get our Slurpees, with the baseball cups and all that kind of stuff. That's what we did, and I just wonder how much of an impact the parents have. Because granted, I am an older parent, so my kids now, some Gen Xers, their kids are way in their 20s, but I'm sure it was done in the 90s too. I don't think the hangout spot was totally over in the 90s.
Yeah, I feel like the hangout spot as a kid is wherever you can afford something like a Slurpee or a Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But grocery is ideal for that.
So it's just interesting how that stuff rubs off. And I don't know if it's directly or if it's just, bi-directly, us telling stories about it, I don't know. But I guess everything comes back, and it's interesting to see that coming back. That I was surprised too when you brought that up, like, hey, they're hanging out at our stores. I'm like, really? I'm like, like a Meijer has everything now. It has retail, it has clothes, apparel, it has pet stuff, it has everything under one roof. So I would really like to see that moving forward, to see how that develops for sure.
Yeah, me too. Well, Bill, any final takeaways from FMI?
It was a great show. If anything more, I just think it showed that the grocery industry is really bursting at the seams, and I just think so much is going to spill out over the next few years. Especially on the technology side, but on the other side, you talk about data and the shopper, and you got different types of shoppers going in there now and spending their money. And they need to be, serviced. They need to be serviced with social media and influencers. And there's just a different way. It's just becoming so broad of a demographic now for groceries, and they have to find a way to really, how they're going to touch, these different, 3 or 4 different demographics that really believe in different things. So I just think AI is going to help out a great deal. Other forms of technology are going to help out a great deal. And I just think the industry is just going to explode over the next 2 or 3 years. I could be wrong, but that's just a feeling I got from that show, FMI.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like it's that, like you're saying, that omni-channel shopper. We all know, their household spend is higher than anybody else. And so figuring out how to speak to that customer across multiple channels is going to be key, and now and the years to come. So totally agree.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thanks, Bill. Thank you for joining us. And everybody else, head over to supermarketnews.com to check out the rest of our FMI coverage. And thank you guys all for joining us. Want a taste of a familiar, comforting classic? Relive the days of PBJs with M&M's peanut butter and jelly. It's the milk chocolate flavor you love, with a creamy peanut butter and strawberry jelly flavored center, all wrapped in that iconic M&M's candy shell. Sounds like a big warm hug and a bite-sized treat to me. Experience the delicious nostalgia for yourself. Grab a pack of M&M's peanut butter and jelly at your nearest retailer. M&M's, for all fun kind.